Hello again. Tonight I thought I would go ahead and talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X. Kind of at a point where I'm starting to play some other games, and I've kind of wrapped up, for the most part, what I'm playing with X. I have a lot to say about it, and so I thought let's go ahead and just have that talk tonight. So this is kind of like my review of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. It is gonna. I'll probably. I kind of just want to talk about the whole thing, the story, and everything like that. So it will get into some spoiler type stuff. Um, I was thinking about it, and if you haven't played it, my spoiler-free review is it is a 10 out of 10 game. So that being said, let me get into why I think it's a 10 game. So I played the game for, I don't know where my playtime is currently. It's somewhere between 80 and 90 hours. I think it might be close to 90 hours. Spent a lot of time in this game. Very large game. A lot to do. Almost all of my experience in the game is extremely positive. There is maybe a little bit of negative that I will get into here, but for the most part, obviously if the game's a 10, it's an all-timer. And I would say that this game is an all-timer. Almost all of like the main aspects of a game that I'm, as far as like the gameplay, the music, the world, the story, all of that stuff, I was really thinking about. It's like there's very little to criticize with this game. It is just fantastic. It is huge. It has a ton of systems. It's very complex. The story is amazing. The characters are great. There's just so much to this game. So I really do feel like I would say it is a, a, a 10 out of 10 game. It's not perfect, but it's very close to that. So let me talk a little bit more about some different aspects of the game. First of all, the story is fabulous. I love the story. The concept, it starts out, I mean, I was going to say, it starts out fairly simple with, the planet Earth being destroyed and you're part of the human race that's escaping on a ship to another planet. It's a very, this is a very sci-fi story. I found it so interesting, and right around chapter 5 is when it starts to get very interesting. That's when we find out that you're the main character that you choose to be is not human, but a robot, a MIM, as they call it. And so that's like the first real twist where you're just like, okay, well, all right, so I'm not a human. I'm a robot being controlled by a human in the life hold. And then that starts adding some complexity to the story, which I thought was just great. That's where it hooked me. And then from there, it kind of had a lot more twists and turns. The main enemy in the story is the ganglion, Luxar. Um, and it was the ganglion are interesting, but then in the starting in chat like 9, 10, 11, 12, it really started to, the scope of the story started to really broaden and get into those really interesting thought ideas of like what is it to be human, like what is the soul, so many different questions that I of technology and it makes you think. This game, the story made you think. It made you like stop and question things, and that's what a great story does, especially like sci-fi. Whether it's a manga or non, or fiction or whatever it is, a movie. Good sci-fi makes you think about the future and about yourself and how you relate to it, and this game did that very well. Let me talk a little bit about the characters. The characters are very likable in this game. Elma is kind of like the main character, and it's funny. Once you, and again, this is we're in the spoiler territory. Elma is not human; she's an alien from another planet, and you start to get deep into the story, and you think about how important Elma is and how she's, she came to Earth to try to help the humans escape Earth successfully. And after playing this game for a long time, I keep thinking about that opening scene where the your little escape pod, that door opens up and Elma like reaches in and says, "Are you okay? Come, let me help you out of here." Wow, that it makes that opening scene that much more impactful. Um, I loved Elma. Wonderful voice acting throughout the entire game. So many great characters, great talent in voice acting. Um, Elma's Elma's character was great. Her like when she changed her form and kind of revealed her true form uh, very late in the game. I thought that was cool, and it was neat how you could continue playing the game in her true form instead of her human like mim or whatever. Also, the other main characters, Lynn. I loved Lynn. Lynn is so cool. Again, the voice actor for Lynn is just, I love Lynn so much. We must protect Lynn. She's like a 13-year-old teenage girl, but she's so strong, so smart, so talented. Her banter with Tatsu, I loved every second of it. Lynn is fabulous. What a great character. Her love of Lao and connection with him. She stepped in front of Elma with the gun, and just the human reaction of a 13-year-old girl towards another human was fantastic. I love Lynn so much. I thought it was funny. She was kind of like the tank. 13-year-old girl is like the tank of the party, right? She had the shield, and her class was kind of like the tank. Um, just a great character, well written, well voiced, just lovely. And Tatsu, one one thing again, before I started playing this game, for some reason my knowledge of the game was little, but I had always heard that like Tatsu was some annoying no pawn that everybody hated or something. Could not be further from the truth. Tatsu is so funny, so brilliant. He might be my literal favorite no pawn in the whole Xenoblade series. I mean, Ricky is an all-timer. I love Ricky in the first game, but um, Tatsu was just perfect. I love Tatsu. His voice actor was so good. The character design with the glasses and the hair, and I could just hear his voice right now, like no, 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 Lynn, no. I was just his. He was well written. He was wonderfully acted. A great character. He was the comedic element of the game, and he just nailed it. I thought it was, like I said, like Xenoblade it juggles like a very serious and intense story with humor. And if you're going those two ends of the spectrum, that's very difficult to do. But Xenoblade is so great because it does it well, like Star Wars. Like Han Solo was the charismatic and sometimes funny and silly character, and when it all comes together, it works. Well, in Xenoblade, it works. Like the story is at times very deep and tragic and intense and human, and at the same time, there is humor and just slapstick and goofiness with Tatsu being a vegetable, and Lynn's gonna cook him for dinner. I'm sorry, I don't know. If you didn't like that, humor's very particular. It's not for everybody, but I love Tatsu. I thought he was great. I thought all of the humor in the game landed. It was charming. I loved it. From there, there's a lot of other side characters. Irina was another standout, and there's a whole large number of characters that you can collect. I got all but one. I'm not sure the one character I didn't get was like the second to the last character. I'm probably gonna. One thing I was gonna talk about is, I finished the game, but I think I might still try to play this game a little bit more. It's just such a cozy world. There's so much to do, and like I've already started playing another game, but I miss being in Mira, even though it's been destroyed, which I'm going to talk about that, right? So so the characters were great, the story's fantastic. The world is such a huge positive in this game. Nowadays, many games are becoming open world games where there's large, expansive worlds. And I like that. That's like one of my main reasons that I play role-playing games, JRPGs, fantasy games. I love the exploration element. Xenoblade Chronicles X is amazing in this aspect. Mira is so fascinating. There's mystery, fear, intrigue, all everywhere you look. The design of the world, the plant life, the creatures. I've played the game, like again, 80, 90 hours, and I'm sure I haven't seen everything. I'm sure there's some weird monster in some cave I've never seen. Beautifully designed, fabulous colors. The music is amazing. But the exploration, and I love how they delayed your skill access. That was a perfect design game, uh, from Monolith Soft. Start on foot. the The world is huge, and then after you've seen a lot of it, then they give you the skill, and then you can start to explore on with the skill. The ground skill goes much quicker, and then very late in the game, chapter 9 or 10, your skill can fly. And it is like when you can get in that skill and fly, it is a Neon Genesis Evangelion type of moment where you're just like, and like the music that plays when you fly is fantastic. And being able to finally explore the whole depth of the planet via flight is amazing. Great game design. It it's just fantastic. Um, so I'll talk a minute about the music. The soundtrack is great. The soundtrack is so good. I pull it. I try to pull it up on YouTube and just like listen to it. I would love to have a hard copy of it, which I think is possible. I don't know if I'll get that, but the music is such a bizarre mix of atmospheric things, and so many tracks have vocals, and it's unexpected. Some of it, the one criticism I would have is that the two tracks that play at New LA, they have a night track and a day track. They're catchy, and I find myself, digging it, but they're a little too. They're just not atmospheric enough. You know what I mean? For those locations, like I love those two tracks. I'm happy they're in the game, but because you spend so much time in New LA, I almost partly wish that they were a little bit more moody or atmospheric with less vocals. But at the same time, like as I'm saying this, it's also kind of it's part of the character of who the game is. I keep thinking of that song where it's just dum chicka dum, hey hey. I don't know. It 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 grows on you. At first it's a little abrasive, but if you play the game long enough, you love the game, and that track kind of grows on you a little bit. I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on how well some of those tracks land, and again, so many great songs. I might have went a little bit more moody with the new LA tracks, just because you spend so much time there doing quests and stuff like that. A small criticism, perhaps. The combat in the game is very good. There's different classes. I mastered like maybe 3 classes as I was playing. I very quickly I mastered the longsword class, duelist maybe, and I saw that you kind of continue to gain like battle points, and so I was like, well, even though I kind of like this class, I'll just keep switching it so that way I can kind of experience other classes. Um, so I kind of maxed out 3 different classes, and the third one was Mastermind, and so I kind of just stuck with that to the end. But there's different gameplay there, a lot of different arts you can master, skills. There's many different stats. I mean, the game is very has is very in depth. Each there's just so many different stats. You can get this gear, then you can get different accessories, or what do they call it? I don't know, but you can get different like skills to put on top of that gear to improve it. Then you can improve those gear. There's just I love a big RPG where you can just keep getting stronger. And this game is a I didn't spend a lot of time like grinding for specific things, but this is a grinder game, man. Like if you want to play this for a long time and build an overpowered character with a ton of stats, you zero in on like I want melee 20 on everything. So you find out how to get that, then you just go kill monsters for like an hour or two to get all the materials, and then you can craft the things. It's very cool. I'm into that. I liked it. I did a little bit of it, but not a ton. But the combat in general is fun. I died. I mean, that's another thing. A lot of times when I play RPGs, nowadays, sometimes you don't die much. You just mow through everything. But with this game, thinking about it, I bet I died 50 times. You start fighting a monster you have no business fighting, or you're the wrong strategy, or you're not skilled enough, and you die. And there's not a huge penalty for dying. You just respawn. Well, if you're in a scale, you can lose the scale, or there's like insurance for the scale. Uh, but overall, the combat system is great, and I like the fact that you can die. You need to have big bads that you're scared of fighting and stuff like that, and that you can lose to. That makes you want to get stronger. So I do appreciate the fact that the game has lots of different challenges, and even challenges that go, well past the, where you beat the game. Um, I finished the game level 58, but in definitive edition you can get to level 99, and I ran into giant monsters that were like level 90, level 99 or whatever. So I don't know if I'll go back and try to defeat every single monster in the game, but I do kind of want to play it a little bit more. So I guess now is the time to talk about maybe some of the things that the one, I guess, negative aspect of the game for me was chapter 13. So I rolled credits on the game. The initial game kind of ends at chapter 12, and after I rolled the credits there, I was just like, I love this game. What a fantastic game. But they added a 13th chapter because it does, they kind of, and I'm not 100% sure on where the initial game ended and like what was new, but I believe in the original game, they really did kind of all of a sudden, like after the credits, maybe introduce a whole bunch of questions about like, the life hold, like people are not actually there, or the life hold was destroyed. So like, how are people still alive type of a thing. And so they added this 13th chapter with the definitive edition to give people more to play and also to kind of answer some of those questions. But I did not like the 13th chapter at all, really. I and if you did, that's great. But I don't I I don't have a problem with things ending on a cliffhanger sometimes because the mystery of it adds to the mystique of the lore, you know what I mean? Sometimes when they try to close things up too well, it ends negatively. And as soon as the 13th chapter starts, they start just like pumping all this stuff that it felt like it was too much to ingest. I didn't quite follow everything. They introduced Al, which he was like this Ned Flanders type character. His whole thing was like, "How's it popping, bro? Oh, it's popping horrible. How about you? It's popping horrible here." I don't even know what that was, but it was so bad it was kind of good. You know what I mean? But he was a weird character. I thought he was okay, I guess. Again, his whole thing was that weird catchphrase that was so bad it was good, I guess. But it also just Xenoblade goes in typical Xenoblade fashion. A lot of the games they start out fairly like innocuous and like just easy to easy to ingest. And then as the game gets very late, it starts introducing like very complicated story concepts. And I feel like I'm always enjoying the game and then there's like a twist and then at the end I'm like in a rush to like understand like what the hell is actually happening here, right? And this game and the chapter 13th is just it just is feeding you so much information about the Sumerians and Luxor and different uh, dimensions and Al was in another dimension and he saw the void and I just like it just gives you so much so fast. I was struggling to like I just wanted to press pause and just like think and just be like, what? Okay, there's the void and the Sumerian. It was just so much information. It was hard to follow. And they introduced my experience with it too, which this is just my experience. Part chapter 13 is broken up into three parts. The first two parts were pretty short, and so I finished those first two parts, and then I had just started the third part, and I was like, okay, tonight I'm just gonna finish this chapter 13 part 3 because I knew it was a three-parter, and I just wanted to finish the game that night. And because I've just started playing Atelier Yumiya, which I'm very excited about. So I was like, okay, this is the night I'm just gonna finish part 3, and Yumiya is coming tomorrow, so I'll be excited to play that. But chapter 13 part 3 introduces like a whole other uh, like map that's just kind of unnecessary. You have to like go around and like find your characters that all got dispersed everywhere for some reason, and you're just getting enough people to fight the void. It was just such an odd choice. I mean, I guess, and I had spent so much time in the game that I just wanted to like see the end of the main story quest. And so when it added all this extra stuff, and then on top of that, the part that really frustrated me was the final boss, the void. I didn't beat it, and it's not. I know it's not. That doesn't sound good, but I got to the void. I found enough people to get a party. I got to the void, and it's like, okay, the final boss. The final boss is a very difficult fight. It was level 60 plus. My characters were around 57, and I tried it a couple of times, and I was getting just wiped out. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think I saw that other people were having the same problem, and if you get to level 60, there's like a special skill, the AR-90 that you can get that you can just one-shot the boss. But I didn't, at that point, I did not want to do, when it comes to the main story, I do prefer when the main story doesn't have like major grindy, blocks in it, especially at the very, very end. I, I'm here, at that point, I just want to see the end of the story. You know what I mean? I just want to see how it ends. What are the credits? Give me all that good stuff. And to get to the end boss and be like, I can't beat this unless I perhaps grind for hours on end till I can get a new skill. And it just, it was not ideal for my gameplay. And so I tried a couple times, I couldn't do it, and then I ended up just watching somebody else's playthrough of that final, because I knew he was the end boss. So I just saw somebody else beat it with an AR-90, and then I got to see the end credits and stuff like that. But that's disappointing. I don't like to play games like that. And so that whole end experience of the 13th chapter was a little disappointing. It soured my taste a little bit, but I spent a day or two just to think about it, and I was like, the game's still a 10 out of 10 even with that experience. But for me, I did not care for that. I thought leaving it at the end of chapter 12 I thought would have been great. Chapter 13 just didn't add that much for me. So maybe getting to the end of it. Overall, again, this game was fantastic. It kind of reinvigorated my love of the Xenoblade series. I have not finished 3, and I would love to go back and finish 3, just based on how much fun I had with X. Overall, the game is brilliant. Again, I've talked a lot about the characters, the music, the story, the battle system. It's just, it's a game that you just want to exist in. The other, I guess, criticism is with the chapter 13 is that they destroyed Mira. Why did you do that? Like the whole game, you just spent so much time as a humanity getting used to Mira and New LA. I liked Mira. I liked New LA. We had formed a community there. And then chapter 13 is like, well, it's all getting destroyed. Let's go to another planet. No, I don't want to go to another planet. I want to settle down on Mira with New LA. I want to expand New LA. This is our new home. We spent the whole game talking about how this is our new home. And to see it destroyed was sad. I did not like that. I understand it tied into the multiverse thing, and they're on the White Whale 2 going to somewhere else, but that was the wrong way to go. Did not like that. That's my opinion. I would love to see a Xenoblade Chronicles X 2. It did have a very different vibe from the other games, and I would love to, they're going to another planet. Where does it go from there? I would love to see where it goes. But so I've yapped about it. This is a long video. I had a lot to say about it. It was a very long game. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I do kind of want to. I'm considering maybe like, will I go back and just maybe start from my save before chapter 13, and maybe I'll grind up and actually beat the game legitimately. Get that AR-90, and then just kind of there was other affinity. There was a handful of affinity quests and side quests I didn't finish. And the side quests were all so good. I mean, even the ones that weren't voiced out were still pretty good. Again, a sign of a really good JRPG. So kudos to Monolith Soft. I think they're a fantastic game developer. Cannot wait to see what they come up with on the Nintendo Switch 2. And I can't recommend the Xenoblade series enough. The games are great. They're similar, but they have differences in them, in the combat and storytelling. Just fantastic. So glad I got a chance to give you the long rundown of them tonight. With that being said, I'll close it out. Thanks for listening to me if you're still here, and I hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.